Then I got a dog going crazy in the background, so I'm trying to figure out if there's somebody here or what the deal is that she's going crazy about. But luckily, I do have security cameras installed, so I don't have to go and do that. I can just look on there, right?
Hey, I have security cameras installed also at the store. That's how I know well and good that the flood that I walked into this morning was caused by a homeless guy getting water from my rear spigot yesterday at
Oh no.
10 in the afternoon.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm feeding my water, my ice machine, which went down, was leaking a little bit, so I took it offline and feeding
And I'll be
it
right back.
a spigot, and I've got it as a Y, and I came in this morning, and it's 2 inches deep, and I've lost chemical, and I've thrown boxes away, and just all morning had to call the extractor to come and get it out. My neighbor's unit flooded, had to go over there and get their stuff out. And so I'm like, you know what? I know good and well I disabled that. I know that good and well this thing was done. And sure enough, I started looking at the security camera after I calmed down and got everything cleaned up. And yeah, it was a homeless guy. Showed him pushing the cart right up there to it, and then coming over with a 5-gallon bucket and whatever. And if he had turned it off the way that he found it, it would have been great. So
never would have had a problem. There you go.
That's crazy. There was some homeless here like years ago.
Slightly wet chemicals this week, and
well, good evening out there in spray wash land. We're going to talk some more about the industry paint issues that have been going on. And Gene had some great comments in when we were talking about, should the industry file suits, kind of a thing, which, just so everybody knows, that's really was meant to get a discussion going, because it's a discussion that we need to be having, because this paint issue that we're having out there is not going away. No. And it's also not something that is so here, one of the misinformation things that's going on is that it's just a Sherwin-Williams problem, and that's not true at all. And then some of the other issues is, people are saying, well, it's because somebody used an interior paint on the exterior of the home. That's not true either. And then the other thing people are saying, well, it's just bad contractors. You're using too hot of a mix. You're doing something wrong. You're not pre-wetting. You're not testing, these kinds of things, which also aren't necessarily true. I can tell you that if I go and I point directly in Gene O'Neill's ear, I know he has caused a paint issue. If I go over him to Ray, I know he has had an issue. I know I've had an issue. I know Bojo Zetti has had an issue. Yep. I know many others that have had these issues. And if you think that these guys aren't quality guys who know what they're doing, you might want to think.
And also, I want to do a formal. Introduction. Huh? We're just getting automatically getting razzed by the watchers out here. But for people that don't know Gene O'Neill, they should know Gene O'Neill. Gene is somebody that I consider a personal friend. Gene, we've known each other for years and years, and met through industry events. You're a guy in Central Florida. You're one of the good guys out there. I know you're real active in the PWMC XJ13. You're real active, in Spray Wash Pro, Spray Wash Academy, a wealth of information.
And I can, just to add on to that, I can say I've tried to pick Gene O'Neill's posts apart sometimes, trying to find something right. He's always got good quality comments and things of that nature.
He's a crotchety old ass.
Yeah, there you go.
For sure.
And I was in Florida and he didn't invite me fishing. So
some people think he's mean, but it's just like, it's not mean. He's just tired,
He is, yeah.
Oh yeah, you can come fishing anytime you want. You just got to pay for that fuel at the dock. It's $49 a gallon right now.
I tell you what, that Yamaha 90 horsepower 4-stroke is my best friend right now.
I got a dog that's going crazy in the background. I can't figure out why, but I guess I won't figure out why. So There you go. And just so y'all know, my wife is in jiu-jitsu, and she went to Salt Lake this last weekend, and she won.
Did she? Awesome.
Congratulations.
I'm scared now.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the questions I think we get the most is, how do I identify the organic pigments, or how do I know which colors are going to turn? And for me, one of the things I'd like to say is that you really can't. I mean, yes, there are some different colors that you can look out for, like the browns, the blues, the reds, that kind of a thing. And
pretty much all of them.
pretty much, yeah, all of them. But there are certain ones that seem to be more, even white. I had it happen on a white house, in white trim. So there is no real rhyme or reason that I'm finding. Gene, what are your thoughts?
I agree, but I also think there's something that very few people do that they should do, and it will point out sometimes if there's a paint issue, and that's simply just wet the damn house before you start cleaning anything. You can spray a house with water sometimes and see the color of the paint change, or you can see streaks left in the paint from somebody that prior cleaned it and didn't rinse it properly, and oxidation issues and other things other than just the paint that were already there just by putting water on it,
Yep.
So rinse.
Water is one of your best friends, and also, and so one of the things we probably confuse paint issues with. I see this happening all the time is flash oxidation versus a paint issue. Well, right. I'd really consider the flash oxidation a washer issue, a washer created issue, because we haven't cooled the damn house down. I mean, it's 120 degrees on the side of that house when we start spraying bleach.
Yeah. One of the things on that too, though, that we have to watch out for, and I know a contractor that's dealing with this right now. He changed the color on a house, and then the homeowner and him discussed it. They said that it was a Sherwin-Williams paint issue and that it was Sherwin-Williams' fault, blah, blah, blah. But then the homeowner called another pressure washing contractor in the area, and that other contractor apparently said something like, well, the guy just used too hot of a mix, and that's why it happened.
Yeah.
Okay? So we got to watch blaming the other contractor, because, I mean, to me, that contractor has now raised an issue for the first contractor, when I know the first contractor and his mix ratios and how he does it, and he has a proportioning system and all that, and he could tell me exactly what his mix ratio was, all those things that tell me it wasn't going to be from him spraying it too hot.
Yeah, I have one. I see this one right here, and I had a similar, and I currently have a paint issue, and I want to go right back to that. I just wanted to hit this before it got too far down the list. Paint issue where the fade was a slow gradual that went unnoticed, and then boom, issue. We had one of those, and luckily the homeowner was like, Ray, my house started out tan. Hey, there's Bo Giuseppe.
There's Bo Giuseppe.
He said, Ray, my house started out tan, and I'll be damned if it wasn't by the time, within a couple of weeks when I went, it was more of an olive color. It was a lot more greenish than it was tannish that when we started it.
Right.
Our fault? Yeah, probably so. Luckily they were cool with it, and they didn't say, oh my God, this is horrible. They're like, yeah, that's kind of, I like it. But I see a comment right here that both Michael and Jeremy said the shitty on the other guy, and it sets an unfair precedent. This is where Bo, what we're talking about is when a washer goes out and says, "Oh, there's an issue," and they all of a sudden say, "Well, it's the washer's fault." They used too hot of a mix, which now has put the onus on the washer, and it could be a very professional washer that's done it. I don't think that should be your go-to on there.
Well, and I'm glad that Bo came in here too, because I know, Bo, you're going to have, or you're setting up something to be able to have some discussions with Sherwin-Williams again. And I believe there's been some at least some talk and conversation in the past. So this is something that industry-wide, I think we need to take a very proactive approach And that's why we're kind of joining forces in all aspects to try to make that happen and try to get the conversation and the communication going to bring that awareness up. What are your thoughts on that, Bo?
Well, first of all, thanks for, contacting me about this earlier today. And Raymond, I apologize for the attire. I was out doing yard work all day, and this is not my usual. Anyway.
And hold on, Bo, before you start, let me, for those of you, because, we are watched, by lots of people that tune in different times, but Bo Giuseppe, again, like Gene, dear friend of mine, I've met through this industry, but you are also, probably the one of the four of us that actually holds a true elected office and rank on here, and that you are the president of the PWNA, the largest, not-for-profit organization for our industry, correct?
That is correct, and that my time will end this year at convention. But more importantly, so this is an issue, and Dougie, you and I talked about this the other day. This is an issue that an organization like the PWNA was created for.
Absolutely.
Okay, and whoever is to blame, whether it's a contractor, the manufacturer, or everybody in between, this is a clear issue. My company now, for the first time, has this issue to deal with. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Did you hear that?
Got your little NFL. You're ready.
It's a notification on my computer. It drives me nuts. I don't know how to turn
it. An Eagles play, aren't you?
Right.
I thought it was going to be the Superman sound in the background.
But this issue, we have to deal with it, and it's only getting worse. My company, on Friday morning, I'm going to meet with a residential homeowner in one of my communities that we wash. The house is only 4 years old. It is hardy plank. It is a dark blue hardy plank. And, this is actually a little bit different of a situation than I've seen. And I'm not going to go into all the explanation of it right now, but her and I, we have an issue that I have to deal with. I will tell you that I have had and continue to have communication with Sherwin-Williams. I haven't had much communication over the last year and a half because of COVID and because Sherwin-Williams went through a CEO change and a lot of corporate stuff. But let's be clear, Sherwin-Williams is not the only company that's having this problem. They're the largest paint manufacturer in the world. So yeah, they're going to get exposed for it more often, or blamed for it more than any other company. But we have evidence of it. Gene, you've got evidence of Bear. I think Benjamin Moore and probably some others. And Trudy Wickham has done a good job of digging up information on this as well. But here's the deal. This is not going away. It's only going to get worse. And I had a phone discussion with my rep, who is from Sherwin-Williams, who is the go-between between the store managers, sales reps for most of the East Coast and corporate in Cleveland for Sherwin-Williams. So he's the connection there. And he has agreed, as we had agreed before, and then things just got discombobulated. He has agreed to get on a call with me with the representative, the director of the research and development department from Sherwin-Williams, and open up discussions about this issue. So as of right now, that's the most I can hope for.
Yeah.
And at least that's a good start to get things rolling.
Yes, correct. So that's where I am right now with that. I expect to hear from him by the beginning of next week. He was on vacation. His boss was on vacation, and they promised to contact me back next week. So
now, Bo, you had made a comment just a second ago about the hardy board. So, and I'm guessing the hardy board, was that even a painted hardy board, or was that the hardy board that's a color match plus hardy board?
So, and based on the pictures and based on my experience, and I used to have a painting company, it is clear that there were touch-ups done on this hardy board after installation. That is where the issues are.
That's where it's
and only in those areas.
Only in those areas.
Right.
Correct.
I want to bring up something though, because the hardy board and what they use here in Florida is that it's like grayish color, primed on it, and then they put the paint on it, whatever the hell kind of hardy board that is. I'm not even 100% sure. But that's the most popular one that's put on the houses here for siding.
The pre-painted hardy board.
Right. It's kind of like prime color, like gray, and then they actually put a paint on it, so it's not colored.
Okay, well, that's not the Color Match Plus. That's real painted hardy board there.
Right.
So the hardy board will come, pre-painted from the manufacturer in its color, or in the prime condition where you paint it the color to your choosing.
Do it your own color.
But I will say that out of all the paint issues, a lot more are on that hardy board siding, which makes me think, like we talked about the VOCs and all that. And, when we first started talking to Sherwin-Williams, the first issue I had, it was magenta. They said organic pigments and magenta. And we think, well, okay, organic. Well, it's come from a plant? Well, that's really not the case. It's VOC, which is volatile organic compounds. And what those are they're fuels. They're things that evaporate very rapidly. And that's how paint cures, right? So when they're cracking down on all that stuff, like the methylate chloride, they almost outlawed, and all these different things that go into the paint. So the paint is taking longer to cure than it did before. And I think even with the hardy board siding, because that is a concrete board and it holds moisture, right? So you think about it, they're putting paint on something that's holding moisture with a new, organic compound that's still man-made. The only reason it's organic is because it comes from carbon.
Right, because they're using something natural.
Right. So it's not curing as well on that hardy board plank, I think, right? I think there's more issues on that hardy board plank than other things. But we like that when we talked, Bo, the first one I ever had, they were blaming it on bleach, and we never even put bleach on the building.
And, that's interesting to back up there for a second. If you think about the hardy boards, and this is where it's so important as a contractor, and I mean, why we push, the plant and the property protection, and why it's so important for you as a contractor to understand what it is you're washing, the substrate and all that. Mm-hmm. The one of the biggest outs that we have as a contractor, I don't mean this out as in trying to escape responsibility, but the Joseph Hardy color, or James Hardy, think Joe Hardy. Sorry, Joe. The James Hardy Color Match Plus siding, which is the pre-painted version that they have on there. It actually literally talks about oxidation, and their boards are supposed to oxidize and supposed to get a chalky thing on there. So it's kind of like I've known a couple of contractors, more than a couple of contractors, who saved their butt by handing the homeowner the Color Match Plus specifications that says, no, this is supposed to happen with this color on here because it's supposed to naturally oxidize. And it's basically their out that they have because they know that the pigmentation is crap on that product. Right. And now that's also interesting to think about. But what is hardy board? Hardy board is a cement fiber board type scenario, which is not going to hold moisture as well as the board. It's not going to accept moisture as well as wood or LP siding or T111 or something. So it could be something with the curing on there, like you said.
And it has a very thin layer on it outside, like the one that's not coated. I don't know if the coating, if they're doing it all through the concrete or if it's just that layer.
It's just the outside layer.
Outside,
Yeah, it's just that tiny little outside layer. If you snap one in half of that, it's still gray on the inside. Right. I would liken it to what we see on flashing, on soffit and fascia, almost like an electrostatic coating on there. Right. I don't know their process, but that's what I would liken it to. Couple of comments, and let's talk about these real quick. TNT, would it be safe to spray something like EBC to wash a Sherwin-Williams painted house?
It'd be safe, but it wouldn't be effective.
It wouldn't be
That's where your
effective.
problem is. If you're dealing with
until you get
funguses and mildews and all that, it's just not going to be that
until
effective.
you get something to kill. And I mean, ABC is a fantastic washer,
Great product.
window cleaner, and degreaser.
Don't say kill. Don't say kill.
Well, yeah,
Don't say kill. That's right.
Remove the stain, the organic staining.
Yeah, well, that's the big point right there that you bring up. Every house wash doesn't need bleach.
Yeah,
That's true.
It doesn't need it.
Yeah.
So unless there is organic stain, don't put bleach on the house.
Bleach on it, yeah. If you're knocking dirt and dust off a house, get away from bleach. You know,
We've had that comment lots of times where they're saying, we've got new construction cleanup, and I use bleach on there, and it's like, why would you use bleach? If it's new construction and it does not have mildew and all this on it, then there's no reason for bleach. Is not the end all be all.
Here's the going. Rich. Do a test spot on every customer's house. Document with company cam. My brother painted his house unknowingly with Sherwin-Williams Organic. Did a test spot and it went bad. They replaced the paint, but not the labor cost.
So let me also touch on something else, and that is, I know somebody that's dealing with one right now where, and again, we said this last time, where he has some very clear verbiage in his emails about, if you're by accepting us to wash your house, you're facing the facts that, you might get water intrusion if you've got, faulty window seals, or the paint may change color if it's an organic pigment paint type thing. And that's not stopping the legal starting process for the homeowner, right? So just because you have the verbiage there, that's why us as an industry, and that's why, the PWNA getting involved and things like that, and creating a lot of awareness, not only that, but creating some documentation that this is happening and that it's not necessarily the contractor's fault. That's what we need to work towards.
Right.
Try to come up with a way.
Unfortunately, and Michael just said, flat paint seen in more second than a gloss or satin. I agree. How hot of a mix causes this issue? Well,
0.5%.
What's that?
0.5%.
Yeah, 0.5% could cause
It does not need to be a hot mix to cause the issue. No. And I'll tell you, in this community, this is one of my HOA communities, and here's the only thing that I'm baffled about it, because this house is 4 years old. We've been washing this community every year for the last 5 years, but last year we did not. They farmed it out to a cheaper company, immediately realized their mistake, called us back and said, get back in here. And I just had another big one do the same thing, basically. But we washed this house twice before without any issue. This time we have an issue. So I said, okay. And it's clear to me somebody has done these touch-ups. I said to the homeowner, when was the last time somebody did some touch-ups or painting? And he said, when the house was built 4 years ago. So now I've got to go to the HOA maintenance and say, was there any additional work done at any point between this cleaning and my last cleaning, which was over a year and a half ago? And that's where I'm a little baffled right now.
It likely could be. I mean, if somebody went in there and nuked it, kind of bad, I mean, that could be an issue with that,
But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And along with what Bo is saying, I think I told you this earlier, Bo, where one of the ones that we had turn on us, I went personally and sprayed the house 1%. Great. Everything was perfect. The next year, I sent my guys out to clean, and we had an issue on the back side of the house. And so, I paid to have that fixed and all that. So the third year when we went back, I personally went out again. Wasn't bad. So I personally used a 0.5% mix. I sprayed everything myself because I wanted to make sure. And that 0.5% in that same area that was touched up again, of course, I didn't paint it. We had it painted. The homeowner did it, probably used the same paint. And even at a 0.5%, that turned on. So that's where I say we washed it one year. And the guy that did it the second year, I know he didn't run too hot of a mix, because at the time we were running proportioners, and it's my most experienced guy that I know. He knows. He doesn't mess with that, because especially bonus program, they don't want to get money taken away from him, that kind of a thing. So I know he did it correctly. So Doug, it doesn't necessarily matter.
I had one, and it was a blue house, and one of the freakiest things, ever. In fact, we have pictures of this, in our class, and So went out there and did a test area, and it was that blue that just loves to turn. Sprayed it down low. Everything was fantastic. Okay, proceed with the wash, and it was two of the most experienced guys doing it. Well, sure enough, they were spraying it at probably a 0.5, 0.75, and it didn't change the color all over the house. I had the random Smurf dots coming on the house. I mean, just like from drips and sprays, and it was the weirdest freaking thing. Where and since that happened, it's happened multiple times after that, and it's just like it makes no rhyme or reason why some would change and others wouldn't change. But it was almost like leopard spots on this house. Mm-hmm. That was part of why the test area we didn't show a problem.
We had the same thing on a commercial building, and it was also hardy board, same blue color, and we're cleaning it and everything's fine. And then as we come back around, maybe after it's set for the time of rinsing and come back, we're like in an hour, 2 hour time. And we started getting them blotches and stuff and runs, and it just like, I was like, holy shit, we're going to paint this thing. Mm-hmm. And we come back the next day, and it dried, and it's like gone.
Well, and that's
it's completely gone. It was like, you look at it, and you would say, this place is ruined. It's got to be painted. Come back the next day, it was completely gone.
Well, how many times have we seen that too? Guys putting pictures of streaks and issues and problems on houses, and as we mentioned earlier, you spray something with water, and literally water could change the color of the house out there, but then it dries back, and there's no problem whatsoever.
Well, the way we explain that, like in the plant and property class, is that if you take a piece of paper towel as an example, right, and it's nice white sheet, and then you take and you get it wet, it looks different, right? Because the moisture that's there. Yet once it dries, although it's crinkly, it's back to being that same thing it was before. So sometimes that is it. You just have to let it dry. When you first told me that, Gene, I was kind of surprised, because if it changed color, like most organic pigments, when they change, they seem to get more of a fluorescent greenish color, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what you guys have experienced?
Yeah, with the bluish, yeah.
Right, but more of a fluorescent look to them. So I'm surprised to hear that kind of went away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't know. I don't get it. Don't understand it. There's no rhyme or reason, and there's lots of factors. We're taking in and putting chemical on it, but let's take in the surface that we're cleaning, the temperature when it's outside. You see these guys, hell, you go outside and spray a 3% mix on gutters in Florida and then get them wet and cool them down. The paint's coming off the gutter.
The paint's gone, yeah.
So there's a lot of factors involved, with it. And that's why I say the biggest thing I could tell anybody to do is clean the house with water. Then target the organic stains,
Palm tree brings a great point up right here. I wonder if time and sun has something to do with it. 100%, absolutely. I mean, that's why paint has a lifespan. That's why y'all remember the old Sears weather beater paint. I mean, that was back in the days when you could use real good stuff on paint. But yeah, weather, absolutely. Sun and ultraviolet rays.
Ultraviolet rays and moisture are the two main culprits for any kind of damage to any of these surfaces that we're dealing with.
And that's something that I have a feeling that these houses that are 10 years old with an older coat of paint, probably not seeing the damage that the newer houses are seeing because of the newer paints on there. But you let this, go another 5-6 years out there, and probably a lot more people with a lot more, newer paints are going to see the damage that we don't see now.
Right. So my first time ever having any issue with paint was on a commercial property. It was a yellow building, block stucco, and it just started, these spots would show up. The greenish color on the yellow is like the yellow's gone, and the customers calling me and like talking about bleach, and I'm like, nope, we haven't used any bleach. We don't clean the building. We just clean the sidewalks and rinse stuff off, spider webs and stuff. We don't even put bleach down here, And like the back and sides of the building were having the same issue, and they didn't even see water. We just cleaned the front of it. It's like a strip mall. And
so you're saying that right there had an issue that you hadn't even caused that. You were not
right. And to come to find out, he had already had a problem before, and Sherwin-Williams painted the building before, right? Mm-hmm. So this pigment in this paint just went away by itself. It just disappeared and started leaving these spots. So the reason that I'm saying that, and Sherwin-Williams painted it again, and we're still cleaning the place, Mm-hmm. But the reason I'm saying that is it's like there's almost like a time frame in the paint itself. It's like if it's freshly painted and not cured and bleach hits it, you're having a reaction and a problem. Mm-hmm. And if it's aged and starting to fade away and you're hitting with it, you're having a problem. And I almost think that really is the issue. We just don't know how to judge.
Yeah, what is that butter zone?
How long has it been since it was painted? Correct.
And that's going to be different for different areas, different substrates.
And it's probably going to be different for the different grades of paint too.
And different paint manufacturers.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jonathan Woodruff asked the question, correct me if I'm wrong, but this pigment issue tends to be only blues and grays. Well, it was, but it's becoming much more prevalent in many shades that we're seeing. Doug mentioned early on, we saw it in white. I've seen it in yellows and golds. I've seen it in pigments, reds. Yeah.
And again,
we've seen it in all different colors. Really.
Again, it's a lot to do with the VOCs because they're constantly changing. There's constantly more government regulations.
Right.
And so they're trying to make different, pigments to make paint. Plus, right now we have a shortage of it. So, they're getting this stuff from all over.
Paint is a remarkably complex, cocktail of chemicals and stuff.
Right. It's not the same thing every time. Even the same paint is not the same identical thing every time.
What Rich just brought up here almost seems if it's not mixed well. That's what mine seemed like on the first house that I got the spots all over. It's like almost like it hit a lump or something that was in there, and it changed only those areas.
Right.
And to bring it back to the VOCs, I think that a lot of that, so volatile organic compounds, and I think that some of that, this is government regulations saying that that all these, it's not just paint companies, it's your shoes, the hats that are being made, watches, the different compounds that are being used that are putting out all these things that are supposed to be tearing away the ozone layer and all that. That's what the government is trying to fix with these regulations, right? And so by creating these regulations, they're saying you can't have these VOCs in place. And, Gene, I think you were mentioning earlier about the organic pigment paint's not necessarily coming from plants, and that's true. But a lot of it is a plant-based. It's an organic-based thing that is the problem. So it's an organic compound that's a natural compound, let's just say that, versus an inorganic, which is something that is chemically made. And so those are where the problems are coming from. And so what we're doing in our industry is we're trying to get rid of some of these organic growths, right? And that's where we're using bleach to get rid of these organic growths. And that's where the problem's coming from. So a lot of it has to do with government regulation. And the reason I'm saying that is because this problem is something that's going to get worse, not better, unless we can somehow collectively come up with a way of fixing the problem or coming up with an industry standard, in some way, shape, or form where we say, if this happens, or, if you've had your house painted within, this product, it's now going to cost you $20 million to paint your house or to clean your house because we got to hand wash the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Or use something that's going to be a lot less effective, with us, or even, dare I say, go in there and pressure wash that house. And I mean that term exactly how, we're going to go back, instead of chemically removing mildew and algae, we're going to physically remove it, through pressure, which is going to bring up a whole new host of issues and problems,
Well, and you know, I think we need to be careful, and I'm going to say this to Facebook right now and social media. We as contractors need to be careful not to just automatically start placing the blame on the, you know, Sherwin-Williams, Behr, Benjamin Moore, you know, and yes, there's blame to go around here between the guys on YouTube that are using 12% hot mixes, you know, unrelated to paint issues. The manufacturers of the paint products are using, from what I'm told, they're all using the same basic resins, raw materials, okay? And they're using those materials based on, you know, the regulations coming from the government, making them take things out and put things in. So it's not necessarily their fault either.
Right.
The confusion here is, and this is where I got to be careful how I phrase and say things here, but some of the confusion here is what we're being told by the manufacturers, and I'm not going to say any specific manufacturer, on how to clean some of their products, and being told in you know, in print, and then being told something else differently in conversation.
I mean, you still find it on the website that Sherwin-Williams says use bleach, you know, on there.
Well, not only that, but we have a contractor that has walked into, and apparently has audio and video recording, walked into 2 separate paint stores and asked, how do I clean your paint? And was told bleach and water. Yeah. So even the places that are selling the paint are saying this, and this is the same, you know, if that's the information that they're giving out, then that's how it should be cleaned. And guess what? That's where the problem is.
Well, and like Bo just said, hey, I got what I can finally figure out how to think about it. Yeah. Like Bo just said, we're like the Brady Bunch here. Who was it?
I almost gave you the wrong finger too, by the way.
Minnie Alice in the middle. You know, you don't want to sit there and put the paint companies on blast, and you certainly don't want to put every other contractor on blast out there. But if you think about this, I mean, I promise you that, you know, you can talk about lawsuits and you know, I know it's real easy to throw those terms around, but Sherwin-Williams reps is going to have a lot. Behr, any of these, Benjamin Moore is going to have a lot more cash, which is what it's going to take for a protracted legal suit than any one of us or all of us, or, you know, any association. So this is one of these where we're a lot better off making them friends than making them enemies.
This is true.
Well, and here's what I'll tell the industry based in my position as president of the PWNA. We have a board call tomorrow, and on that board call, I'm going to propose that we initiate these discussions officially with Sherwin-Williams to have nothing but discussions on the problem and start coming up with solutions from both sides. Because they've actually come to me and said, okay, let us do some testing out at our test facility in Cleveland. You tell us what you're using, the ratios that you're using it in, and we'll go from there. And then that's where the conversation started to fall apart because of COVID and everything else. And we never reestablished that specific dialogue again. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to propose it to the PWNA that we officially, as an organization, enter into these discussions so that we can start the process of finding a solution.
And Michael said if you live close to a body of salt water, the paint oxidizes faster. And remember, what's the active word there? Salt. And what are we spraying if we're using bleach? Salt. And
but just like that's why I think we need to get off the organic. Or the organic, it's easy for us to explain to a customer like that. They say, okay, it's organic and it kills organic. But really, if you read about it, the organic and non-organic. So organic means it comes from a carbon base. Mm-hmm. It's still mostly man-made, right? And inorganic means it comes from salt, minerals, and metal, right? So you got paint that has salt in it. If you think about that, so it's very complicated. It's very complicated, and it's more than just an organic pigment that just disappears. There's a lot more involved.
Yeah, it's not.
We're boiling down to simple terms.
It's not Apple. I mean, when we look at this issue as a whole, let me like Apple Wash. It's not like Apple Wash where you have a bleach that is incompatible with a dye, and so it kills the organics in that dye. This paint issue is a lot more than the organics, kind of like, and unfortunately so much of what we deal with is whenever you're the last guy that touches the property, you tend to have it. I was talking to a member the other day, and he was sending me pictures, and he was just so disheartened. But he was washing under a porch using about 0.5% mix, and using about 0.5% mix, and sure enough, everywhere. So there's vinyl under there, but everywhere there is the aluminum or the metal, the soffit and fascia, and the channel that's been bent to hold it. It is just turning milky white and running off of there like crazy. He's using 0.5% to wash. And I said, buddy, the sad part is you just got stuck from the last washer's bad habits, because I'm guessing he either used way too hot of a mix or didn't rinse, or possibly both. And it's just like, gutters. He's gone and nuked that finisher, window screens. He didn't go and rinse it off. He saw the problem, but that stuff, the next time somebody with bleach, it reactivated it. And now that stuff's just turning to milk water and running off. And so is it his fault? No. But is it his fault? Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, that's why I brought up this comment from John, right? John Sacco was saying, I'm pretty sure it has a lot of issues are new operator errors. And I'm going to tell you, John, that's not the case. And then if you go down to another comment that John made, let's see, of course, this one's very spot on, John. But then you had one more, guys trying to finish fast, this spray and pray. That's not true. Yes, that is part of it, but that is not completely true. Again, everybody on this panel so far has caused the issue. And then many others that we know do a good quality job that, the issue happened to. So it's not necessarily just from somebody that's not spraying correctly, using too hot of a mix, not pre-wetting. And even I dare say, even doing some testing,
oxidizing issues that happen. Those are usually more oxidizing issues, not the vivid paint change with the color. Those are more oxidizing, where people spray a hot mix on a hot surface and it oxidizes it. Pulling closures in Florida, I see them over and over again. Guys go out and just start spraying bleach on a piece of metal that's 140 degrees. It's going to mess it up. And I think that's a different issue for sure. And there's a lot of guys that are doing that, but I don't think that's the paint issue.
That's not the paint. That's not what I mean.
And kind of like when we talk about, Ray, with the roofing, the manufacturers, now they bring it out and they make the damn roofing right in the driveway, So there's so many different manufacturers. Well, that's years ago, a paint pilot wheel was about that big around. You pull a little thing, and that's your color choices.
That now it's the size.
Now it weighs 5,000 pounds, and there's every color in the world, and they're mixing that shit right at Home Depot or Sherman-Williams. So
what Ryan said, and this is one that I've seen: a neon green. He turned neon green a brown bear marquee, and yeah, I've seen that brown. I have seen that turn neon green before. Absolutely, 100%. I want to answer this for Brian Anderson. And first off, Brian, 650 to about 800 to answer the other question you asked me about earlier, and I didn't have a chance to call you back. But 650 to 800 pounds, the weight of a hot water pressure washer. Any other techniques to detect organic pigmented paint besides putting water in a test spot? Does it react to light differently than older paints that can be detected with a flashlight or something similar? That's an amazing idea. And Bo, is that something you can ask whenever you meet?
That is something I can ask, and I actually thought about that. As you know, what is a possible other technique or easier way to be able to figure this out?
Yeah, other than oops.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that Ray and I had talked about was, like creating something that is, you break it, and you know how with the smelly things, how you break those and you can smell them, but that would have the chemical on it, and then you could do some test spots here and there. So that was something that we looked at creating. But one of the problems is, just like, I don't remember who was saying it earlier. I think it was you, Bo, where you said that the place had been touched up paint here and there.
Right.
And, so you're still, that would help with the issue, but it's not necessarily going to solve, but it would definitely help. But, and part of it does boil down to the contractor at least doing some test spraying. And that can really help you to where you're now only changing a little area versus the entire home.
Well, and David Jernigan brought up a good point earlier, way back up there towards the front of, that area behind the air conditioning unit. Actually, a pretty good area to go because it's a little bit out of the way. You've got, a 3 foot by 4 foot area if you can get up in there to spray that. Not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we are getting some hardcore. I appreciate everybody's seeing it in red and beige. Let me get through some of these comments here. Thank you for answering. Anybody treating oxygen-based cleaner instead of SH to remove mold, mildew? No.
So did you already pass the one about the citruside?
No, I haven't seen that about the citruside.
Okay. Keep going. It's just probably in there, so I won't.
Because I have a real problem with the citruside, to be honest, and all.
I agree, but I had my reason for mentioning that. Somebody had said something about, well, what about citricides and all that? So one of my hopes out of all of this, and this is where, having both. See, I did it right the first time, Ray. So one of my hopes with, the PWNA and things like that coming together and having these discussions is that, it could end up being a big blessing in disguise where, again, Gene doesn't have the money. Ray doesn't have the money.
Ray's got the money.
Bo doesn't have the money. I don't have the money to create a new product. But if we collectively, as a community of washers, we get the homeowners complaining to Sherwin-Williams about this issue, not just us, right? Get the homeowners to, because they're not going to necessarily listen to us as much as they will maybe the homeowners, right? So maybe then they come up with a better way to clean their paints or their surfaces that actually could change the industry.
Yeah.
Right. Giving us a better way to clean.
Well, and as long as, I'd love to see that if they've had it, but, let's be, and I'll name a name here, Graco. Graco has a lot of their own cleaners for stuff that, frankly, in my experience of having to use that, because that's what some of these commercial entities have said. Well, we've had this, cleaned. We've had this painted within the last couple of years. This is what the manufacturer says. We want this Graco elastomeric paint cleaner on there. We want you to use that. And whenever I did that and said, okay, come up and let's look. And they're like, this doesn't look like you've done anything. And frankly, it did not work. And so we had to resort to more traditional methods of cleaning with the building supers, blessings on there. But unfortunately, sometimes what the manufacturers create to clean is extremely ineffective and ineffective. I mean, unfortunately, because they go overly protective. David Jernigan is saying you hit it on the head about something. Pretty sure a lot of these issues. Yeah, you said that. Remember red dye number 2? Yeah, actually remember Apple Wash, because I had a little Apple Wash issue today. Jamie Schmidt, great point. I agree, John. no matter what the customer will blame the contractor. And
Yep.
yeah, and there's some truth in that. And there's also some truth in that if you're the last guy that touched it, it is your fault, even if it's not necessarily your fault. And if you wash enough houses and you're in this industry long enough, you will have issues like this. And this is where I want to bring up, the point that we were talking, the pregame here. This is why you need insurance. This is why you need to work at a profit. And this is why you need to handle your business like a business, because you will have issues no matter how diligent, no matter how good of a washer you are, no matter how by the book you are about things, you're going to have an issue at some point.
Yes, you are.
No matter how much you ignore it and say it didn't happen, this goes back to that whole thing, Ray, that you and I talked about booster pumps. When we first started really pushing the booster issue, and that is, so many guys would say, well, yeah, I never tripped a breaker in my life. I've never done this and I've never done that.
How do you know?
How do you know? The only reason that we realized that it was happening for the most part was because we started plugging in boosters and then getting the trip. Well, now our boosters aren't working. Oh, gee whiz. That's because we got too much water back behind me. So that's where you learn that issues happen.
Well, and you know what? I would argue that probably more than half of the issues that we do create, we don't get the call from the customer on.
Absolutely. I believe that.
Okay. I love the guys. I've never had these complaints like you just said. Well, guess what? You've had them. You just don't know you've had them. Exactly. That customer didn't call you back for a reason, whether they were right or wrong or not, whether you did something wrong or not, it doesn't matter. There are, I would guess, more issues that you don't hear about. They just move on to another company.
Exactly.
Like going to a restaurant, most people don't complain. They just don't go back.
They just don't go back.
Yeah.
I have a question
on that. We had one where
the Citrus Shield. Now, I wasn't a fan of the Citrus Shield, and it was because the reps discussion that he had with me, and I did not appreciate the discussion at all, because I said, look, we're getting 18 months, 2 years out of these cleanings on this, and the Citrus Shield rep was like, yeah, but with our product, you're going to have to clean this every 6 months, and so, and I'm not trying to diss Citrus Shield. It was the reps' reaction to me that I really didn't like. And I was like, I have a hard time convincing these people to pay $8,000 for a cleaning every 18 months, much less $8,000. And the Citrus Shield really had some much higher pressure requirements. I felt that you were manually removing organics versus letting the chemical do the work with the Citrus Shield biocide, my opinion.
Right.
Well, and I think if we look at the whole thing as a big picture, we're going to run into the same issue that we ran into with pressure washing, right? Pressure washing got a really bad name because the use of high pressure was damaging things. And so I think we're going to run into that same issue where people are going to want to step away from the chemical cleaning because it's causing too much damage. What were you getting ready to say, Gene?
Hell, I forgot. I'm having a brain fart.
It's called AGE.
Here's an interesting one. Isn't it true that only when the paint is older, even with these cheap pigments, that if it's new, it won't get screwed up? So I'm pretty good at looking at it and being able to visually see if it's bad paint. I tell the homeowner before that it's going to screw it up, but if it's prepping for a repaint, it's time to do that. LOL. No, that's the problem. I mean, we were having people doing maintenance cleanings that were having this issue. Paints that were 18 months to 2 years old out there.
Right. That's the cleaning that I'm dealing with now. This is a maintenance cleaning. We're doing them every year.
Right.
And this did not pop up until this last cleaning on this one specific house out of 175.
Steven Sabella made a joke because he does nothing. He doesn't clean houses. Paper sealing. He said, I just sprayed a house with paper sealer. But if you think about that and you think about how this issue is rising, that might even be a
bad idea. Yeah.
It might be a service at some point to protect your paint and make it last longer.
I'll tell you what, I'm about to spray my deck with Deco and see how it does on wood. So
That would also be an interesting conversation to have, Bo, with Sherwin-Williams, because is there a sealer that can be put on over the top of the paint product so that we can say, okay, now, because, Gene, just like you're saying, I mean, that becomes an extra avenue for you as a washer to apply the sealer, or paint the guys that are doing the painting to go back and put a sealer on over the top, something to help protect, because I guarantee that Sherwin-Williams, if they really know that there's an issue there, which, I mean, I believe it's growing, so they're going to figure that out anyhow, but they don't want to have these issues with homeowners. So if they can come up with a solution, I'm betting that if it's pushed hard enough at them and not just a bunch of contractors squawking, I think if they got homeowners involved, they're going to probably do something to help rectify the problem.
This is about the third comment we've seen, a second comment on Company Cam, the third or fourth comment about photos. Mm-hmm. And as we've been preaching for years and years and years, Doug, photos, get before and afters of your job. I mean, this is what I have a problem with people that are going out there doing the Google bidding. Mm-hmm. How do you know what condition that paint is in if you're going by and just doing a Google a Google bid on that property? You're setting yourself up for major liability. Mm-hmm. Obviously a Bo fanboy. Bo
is in the house.
Now,
who is that?
I don't know.
It just says Facebook user, doesn't tell us who it is.
Before I read this comment, I'm going to wrap my head in this tape so that my brain doesn't freaking explode.
Wait, don't pull off any of the rest of the hair you have on your head.
Well, he put it on backwards intentionally.
Yes, spray and forget, concentrate. Yeah. That's
I know a contractor that had to use that. It was required by the company. They didn't want any bleach used. They wanted spray and forget, and it was. I think it's hilarious.
Now spray and forget, and I'll go. And that was my bad and my poor attempt at humor. I was initially thinking of the 30-second miracle cleaner, which is bleach
based, yeah.
But the spray and forget is not bleach. Spray and forget, or the wet and forget, or whatever. But also, if you're a contractor and you're out there buying those little bottles of that, you're paying a lot of money for a product that's a lot cheaper. But that is a quaternary ammonium, blah, 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 blah. But it's a quat cleaner. And they're actually fairly effective at killing organic growth. But it is going to take a little more pressure than we're doing with booster air pumps, over tipping a pressure washer type thing. You're going to have to get on it a little bit if you're using these quaternary compounds.
Right. And I don't want to get into chemistry. It's just like, they got the fertilizers that they use to clean roofs with, copper sulfate, they sell it, it's a product. They don't call it copper sulfate. They call it something else, and they sell it, but that's what it is. And
you think you kill landscaping with bleach.
Bleach is dangerous. You should read about that shit.
Yeah. I used to say, when I owned the fish farm years ago, we had the big Isuzu, the Isuzu NPR with a feed hopper on that, on the back of it, where we go out and feed the ponds. We had 25 production ponds on this farm. And I got the bright idea that I would put about 8 bags of copper sulfate in the back of this, mix it with the feed to do my aquatic weed treatment on the things. On about the third bag, it kind of exploded a little bit as I was dumping it in, and I inhaled that copper sulfate. I truly fell off the top of that hopper truck. I thought I could not find my breath for 10 minutes or so. I mean, I was sitting there alone and just gasping, going, this is how I die. This is literally how I die.
So that's what happened.
Yeah.
I get it
now it's all coming together. Now we get it. All right.
True Seeker, you're right. We don't know. That's the amazing thing
and that's interesting that you bring that up, because that is also another factor with paint. and that's silica, which is crystalline silica, which is in paint, a lot of paint, which is crushed quartz, which is very hazardous to breathe, which they're reducing that out of the paint, So it's been in paint for years, but now I'm sure the count of it's lower. Plus, they're probably using the shit for a million other things. So,
yeah,
it's just one more thing that's in that mix.
I ain't worried about no stinking paint. I have insurance. And you know what? Ryan doesn't make a bad point there. I don't think I'd be getting it with a general, Bubba. But, Ryan's a good business person. But this is why we should all have insurance. This is
but
why
you also need to check with that insurance and make sure it's going to cover this type of an issue. Because,
well, that's true,
a lot of the issues they don't cover. So in other words, as an example, if you pressure wash concrete and you leave the lines because you've taken the quote unquote cream off the top, the insurance company may not cover that because it's something you're working on, right? They cover if a rock flies and hits a window.
Right.
So the same thing applies here. If you're spraying the house and you change the paint color, we had a contractor, guess about 3 years ago now, Ray, that remember he sprayed the roof and he used maybe a little too hot of a mix. He knew in the back of his head that it was the wrong thing to do, but he sprayed the roof. It had been painted and all the paint came off. So they've got this red and white streaky roof, right? And so he contacts his insurance company. Insurance company says, hey, that's something you were working on. It's not covered. So you have to check your policies.
That's the control, care, and custody.
Custody and control, yep.
There's so many people that have insurance for janitorial services instead of actually using chemicals. You have to have insurance to use and apply chemicals on a house to be covered for it.
Right.
You also, that doesn't cover you if you spray somebody with bleach. That's a whole separate
thing. A whole different rider.
Yeah.
And and what we just talked about, the care, custody, and control, and that's part of it. There are certain insurance. In fact, if you look at the Next insurance, I think we did one of these about a year ago with Next Insurance. And it was like, so the $5 a month Next Insurance had $50,000, $10,000 in liability. And it wasn't until you got up to the much more expensive where it says, ooh, with this one, we include care, custody, and control. What is care, custody, and control? Well, in a nutshell, it means you're the expert. So we're not going to cover anything that you screw up. We're going to cover accidents. But if you change the color of the house, if you slip and fall, if you you park your truck under the carport and you're running a generator on there and it starts a fire, this was under your care, custody, and control at that point. So we're not covering it. So it's a very important rider to have on your insurance.
Yeah.
And keep one other point in mind that I want to bring up. And this is happening right now. This is live. This is happening right now. And that is, so one of the contractors that's having an issue right now, he's got, again, I said in the beginning, he's got great verbiage in the email that he sends out prior to any cleaning. I mean, he basically says, if it changes color, we're not responsible. It's on you. Okay. So he has contacted his insurance company, and his insurance company said, there's two reasons we're not covering this. Number one, it's something you were working on, right? But number two, it is in your verbiage. You notified them that it could happen, and they accepted the responsibility by having you do the work. So even if it wasn't something that, if you had in your verbiage, and I'm making this up, this isn't what was said, but if you had in your verbiage that by running a surface cleaner here, we are probably going to throw a rock and break your window, or we could throw a rock and break your window, and then that happens, the insurance company doesn't necessarily have to pay anymore because the homeowner was notified. Okay. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying is the reason that they're rejecting any claim. Those two reasons. One, the homeowner was notified, and two, it was what he was working on.
Yeah.
And
check
do you
your
have insurance to cover your attorney fee? Because that's another part of insurance you have too.
There you
So
go.
Absolutely.
cover my legal thing. And then you got a deductible. I don't know.
Flip just said had a
I've got a high deductible because my insurance, I'm not paying $55 a month. I'm paying more like $550 a month.
Yeah.
And my
You're not
deductible is
using the
high,
gym.
so I'm going to paint the house. I'm not even filing a claim.
Exactly. I'm not going to sit there and, it took us so long to get the insurance that we wanted. And, I mean, we were well over 5 figures a year for our insurance, various insurances that we had. And there was no way in hell I was going to go gamble on that over a $2,500, $5,000, type paint job on that. Oh no, that insurance was for critical issues. Flip's talking about good old fashioned customer service, 100%. David Jernigan followed up with the same thing. An in-person.
No reason to be sorry.
100%. I still, I'm the same way, There's Mitch being bad.
Yeah. Is Mitch any other way other than that?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I gotta go.
All right. So
I gotta go
thank
take
you
a
so
shower.
much.
I gotta have
This is
dinner.
last minute and all, but we appreciate you.
Well, and I will give an update here. After I have communication with Sherwin-Williams, and I talk with the PWNA about how can we help the industry for this issue, because we have to do something.
Right.
And guys, let's do this again soon. Let's do one for the huge and do one for Power Clean, and let's get on and start.
Absolutely.
Let's do that.
All
right.
buddy, see you.
You got it.
Sure.
Bye.
We are running just over an hour, Ray.
That's all right. Well, let's hold on. Let's working on. I mean, the comments. Boy, we've had so much engagement tonight.
Good.
Space for space. We have to have specific riders attached. Took us about a week to get the policy right. Told us they were the only ones that got it right. Gene, you've seen this before with your HOA stuff. How important is it to have the right insurance? And how many times have you probably gotten jobs because you've had the right insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. I sell it. I sell it. Roof cleaning. I mean, if a guy falls off your roof, think about that. Did you really save, $400? Because if he fell off the roof, they're going to be calling you. Somebody's going to be calling you.
So somebody is,
one of my favorite things on that, because as an educator, I mean, we educate the homeowner every single time. One of my favorites on it was, if a homeowner would ask me up front, if I didn't have to educate them right off the bat, and they would say, "Do you have insurance?" My answer is always the same. "Oh yes, I have car insurance," and I would dead stop it right there. Well, I don't mean car insurance.
Yeah.
Do you have insurance for your business? And then I could bring that up and say, okay, the point that I was trying to make to you, and then that's when you get into the educational side. It's not, do you have insurance? Do you have workers' comp? Do you have general liability? Do you have the insurance that it takes to cover any issue that happens here on this job site?
Do you have an umbrla policy? Do you have, I mean, all these, incredibly
You have money in the bank to cover your deductible.
Yeah.
And what else you
Good point.
$5,000 deductible. How much damage did they do? $4,999. You're still not getting it fixed if they got insurance.
But yeah. So, the insurance's going to cover it, but I can't stroke that check for that $500 deductible till you pay me for this here job.
When
And
they
then
pull
I got
up
to
to
go
the house
do
and
about 3
the
more.
backfire of the engine happens, you're in a bad shape to begin with.
Yeah.
That would make a great commercial.
And even on the insurance, and we used to float in and out of insurance policies all the time. And by that, I mean, let's say you working on a place is going to require $2 million general liability or $3 million, whatever whacked out thing, or $1 million car is a great example for that, because most of us aren't running around with $1 million auto policies. We kept $500,000 all the time, but we did have some jobs that would require us to have $1 million riders, and they were usually pretty big jobs. So we had a great relationship with our insurance agent. We'd say, "Hey, we need to bump up. Nate, bump us up for the next quarter." And he wouldn't do it for a month. I mean, we'd have to pay for a quarter of sliding up to that $1 million thing. And it just got factored in as a job cost on there.
Right. See, in my area, I mean, it's $1 million. We carried $1 million on everything. And a lot of the commercial jobs, when they requested it, it had to be a minimum of $1 million. We had one company that required us to have a $5 million coverage limit. And so,
but I'm talking about the auto policy. I'm talking about
yeah,
just
on the auto
policy, which is
on the
kind
auto
of crazy.
policy,
Yeah. But,
Let me know how that works. A Chinese insurance policy. Nice. I like it.
I think that we need to start spelling Biden a little bit differently. Just either calling him Din so that we can say bye, Din.
Yeah. But yeah, just like you said on the insurance, we have the big one is for like commercial, especially like you're doing hospital work or HOAs and stuff like that. I believe it's contaminating something or another where it gets into the chemical aspect of you spraying bleach on a person, right? Where your general liability insurance does not cover that. It may not cover it, right? Yeah, it's called a contaminant insurance, and I've got this straight because I had this question like right off the top of my head because that was like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen when you're doing a job like that? The little lady walks outside and you sprayed bleach all over her ass, right? That's pretty bad. So I want to make sure, and this comes straight from the top, that no, you needed that. It may or may not, but we recommend that you get this contaminant policy, and we sell the hell out of that.
Well, that's what we would do is we had Earl sitting there with a red tip. And so if anybody ever got sprayed down, Earl jumped up there with the red tip and just washed them down real quick. And
that's why he charged for the anal bleaching.
Michael, just, commercial vehicle insurance is a chunk, but a must. 100%. I mean, most guys don't even realize that they are running around if they're pulling a trailer or have a logo on their truck and they've not gone and converted into commercial insurance, that they technically do not have insurance.
Right. I don't carry the $1 million policy, and my commercial insurance is actually pretty much the same as my regular insurance.
True, but it's a big out for them on the insurance. Oh wait, you were using, because there's a lot of regular auto insurance policies that have a small little disclaimer in there that this does not cover you for commercial concerns.
Yeah. So you can the guys at work, you can have, you use your vehicle for personal use and commercial use and get a policy that still covers that for commercial use. Mm-hmm. There's a lot on that. It's like even like the DOT regulations for that with driving your vehicle. If your vehicle got lettering on it in the state of Florida, you're supposed to have commercial insurance. They could actually give you a ticket if you're a lettered vehicle and you don't have commercial insurance.
Yeah. Absolutely. Flip, one of our managers, had me join a great organization that educates and trains property managers and board members, learning a ton on the inner workings of HOA policies to include commercial insurance. 100%. Henry, we waited for you, buddy.
But you're late. That's all right.
That's okay. Well, Gene, how's the fishing? What's running these days?
Oh, been slow. The current's been ripping out here. We went fishing over the weekend. Had to have like 3 or 4 pounds of weight at the bottom. It was crazy. So, but the snapper is still out there. There's some snapper. Dolphins stand out a little bit, but mackerel's always there. And I caught a Kobe. I haven't caught a Kobe in probably 5 years. I caught them over the weekend. I
actually had Taylor Hildebrand bring me some grouper and snapper by the office this afternoon, and I made grouper piccata for dinner. So.
There you go. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
We're sick of fish around here, but I got a freezer full of it now. I hate freezing it, but been eating so much damn fish. I got to put this stuff in the freezer, man.
Absolutely. And Jeremy, that is so you're absolutely right. The $1 million coverage is great to have to get certain commercial accounts. Mm-hmm. And this is for the guys that are
even residential accounts.
I would dare say the three of us, it's probably just verbatim what comes out of our mouth about the insurance. It's even, where you just naturally kind of vomit this information back up, whenever you're talking to your customers. But if you're the newer guy in there, use this insurance. Use this, that you have $1 million policy or you have a $2 million policy. use it. You have workers' comp, let that customer know that we have full workers' comp coverage. Not only do I have it on my employees here, I have it on myself. I know a lot of people go and take the easy way out and they do a workers' comp exemption for themselves.
Yep.
Mrs. Homeowner, if I twist my ankle doing an estimate on your house, I'm actually covered by workers' comp on here.
Right.
Not only that, but I also bring up the importance of, if the contractor says, yes, we have the workers' compensation insurance. Okay, great. You should follow up with the next question, which would be, are all of the employees that are going to be on this job site covered under that policy?
And like Gene brought up too, what kind of workers' comp is it?
Yeah.
And in Florida, you can sit there and go into the Department of Insurance. You can literally pull up a company's workers' comp insurance and see what commodity code they're listed under out there. And we have used that on competitive bids before and going, oh, wait, Fred Softwash, I know they said they had workers' comp insurance, but, they're listed under commodity code 37802, which is janitorial, which says they're not allowed to use internal combustion engines and they're not allowed to get on ladders. And this is janitorial insurance.
Yeah. Even for our general liability, every year when it renews, I have to sign they send me a roofing contractor's thing and I have to write across. I have to sign it, but I have to write across it. We do not install roofs. We clean them.
Yep.
And I still have to sign this roofing contractor's affidavit every year just for my general liability.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have that, you're not covered.
Yep.
That would be a good point, Ray. And if you took as far as for sales, right? If I were in Florida, maybe consider that you say, okay, great. I can find out exactly what type of insurance this company has by going to this website, maybe providing that link to say, hey, check us out and see that we have proper insurance. Not go check out Gene. He doesn't have the proper insurance. You're saying,
check us out.
Yeah. And naturally, they're going to check out Gene because
you're getting a quote from Gene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
so they can cut Gene out.
That's going to work a lot on your commercial and HOA type things because they're really going to look. Your customers, they're either going to hire you because you already got a reputation, or they're going to hire you because you're cheap.
Or they like you. Or they like you.
Or you like you.
Yeah.
So
what if you have a good reputation about being cheap?
Yeah.
In Florida, janitorial services don't require workers' comp if a company has less than 4 employees. Then again, neither do pressure washing companies. Is ladder work or combustion engine work still under this? Under janitorial, last time I checked, Henry, they could have checked it changed it within the last year, but no. You were basically the most, you were allowed to operate a vacuum cleaner or a mop is what you were allowed to do under workers' comp, under the janitorial workers' comp. Not allowed to pressure wash.
Yeah. The one that's always weird to me is like, there's no sales tax for pressure cleaning in Florida, but if you clean commercial windows, there's sales tax.
Yep. Clean a window, there's sales tax.
Yeah. Not residential. You can clean residential, there's no sales tax. Clean commercial windows, there's sales tax.
Yeah.
That's
true.
funny.
It is.
It's funny, not in a not funny way, that kind of thing.
I'll tell you where it's not funny. I'll tell you where it's really not funny, Doug, is whenever your CPA looks at you and says, oh, by the way, you owe about $7,000 in back taxes to the state of Florida for sales tax that you did not collect. Yep. That's where it's not funny. Yep. Ask me how I know. Now, what about his electric booster? I don't know. Now you're splitting hairs. Can you justify? Can you prove that that only your employee used the electric booster pump and never touched the pressure washer on the rig? And that was only you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
If it's on your rig, I think it applies to everybody that's there, kind of thing. That's what I would think.
I wouldn't want to get
It's kind of like potable
Yeah,
water. Like if
here's-
you've got tanks on your truck and you don't have something on there that says potable water, they can call it bleach. Even though it's clear, they can stick their finger in it, taste it, and say, "Oh, that's water." They can still classify it as bleach because they can classify it as the worst chemical that you have on that truck.
You know, one of the interesting little things that I'd heard about the workers' comp is, and this is talking to a workers' comp attorney, and they said, you know, if somebody has, let's say that I have janitorial workers' comp, and I send my guys up on a roof. Well, most likely they're going, if somebody should fall off of a roof and get hurt or you know, God forbid they die, because they have that insurance because they have workers' comp, that employee themselves is actually going to be covered. Now, the employee isn't going to get left out in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the employer himself may have hell to pay. They may come after him. They may cancel him after that. But the employee itself is going to get taken care of by the workers' comp insurance.
Yeah,
Right.
It's the biggest part of insurance fraud there is misclassification workers' comp.
Insurance, you know, for me, I used Nate Marks here, or well, I guess now it's Accentria. And they underwrote us under owners insurance, auto owners, and then homeowner business owners. That was who we found that met our needs the best.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, we have wasted another hour and almost an hour and a half of everybody's time tonight. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. We'll split this up. This has been a great discussion. I had the recommendation where we need to start breaking these things up into much smaller little sniglets that people will watch 10, 15 minutes of online.
TikTok.
TikTok.
God, that is just like ruining the world. I swear to God, TikTok is the worst thing ever for the world. It is. It's horrible.
And getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Absolutely.
And don't forget the huge conventions coming up, as well as Power Clean will be coming up, and should be sending out an email here in the next day or two about huge convention stuff. So
yep, we got our classes at the huge convention. The basics, if you want to watch, come and take the basics. The plant and property protection, the ever popular one. If you've already taken TikTok, now I'm sitting here reading Jeremy's thing. Already taken plant and property, you're welcome to take it again with us. You know,
and you get the online class as well. Plus, we also have the metal and other substrates. Or it's not. How in the heck did we name that? I get tongue-tied on that.
But it's really, we mainly talk about metal roofing. You know, and Gene was real instrumental in helping us write that. You know, it's something we made for pro members, and you know, we talk about metal roofing. We talk about the ins and the outs of it. And there's some metal roofing is metal roofing. It's different it's a different animal than all the rest, you know?
That's for sure. That's for sure.
But anyhow, we'll have an email out on that for y'all here next day.
So you're right around the corner from Jonathan. So how about that?
Cool deal, man. Yep. Beer would be better than coffee for me.
Yeah, let's just throw that out there for probably get Gene talking a lot more. So you know, we had talking about fishing, Gene. So this happens in our neck of the woods each and every stinking year. Scallop season begins on July 1.
Yeah, we'll
and
be
then
there
usually
Wednesday.
that first week of July, we wind up either with a tropical storm, which looks like we got kind of brewing up here right now, or just torrential rains that turn our flats into mud pits out there. You know, you can be out there about June 25th looking down and going, damn it, the scallops over there. But then whenever season comes in, it's too muddy to see your hand in front of your face. So
yeah, we will be there Wednesday.
Yeah, Jonathan, Michael's another good one to hook up with too. Palm Bay. Definitely another good guy that's right down there.
Yeah. Yeah, we will be there Wednesday. I heard that scallops have been good though, so I don't know.
Oh, going home, Sassa?
Yeah, I hope this doesn't stir it up too much.
Well, we went down there for Father's Day, and we were watching. We were in, we just drove out to the Gulf, just to float around by the islands and stuff. And I had a Canadian buddy with me who was sitting there looking over. He's like, "What the heck is that?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Something just kind of got up and squirted and moved and went back." I was like, "Oh, that was a scallop,"
Yeah.
And so the scallops were kind of bouncing around and moving a little bit. Which,
Did you see that girl that got bit by a shark over there?
yeah, right.
When was that?
Just recently, scalloping, which is
scalloping.
rarely.
Their season starts about a week before ours does down in Keaton Beach.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is bull shark season too.
Yeah, I've rarely.
They're taking her leg off. Well, beautiful 18-year-old gal, and they're going to take her leg off at the knee. I mean, bless her heart. But
wow, it actually took her leg off below the knee.
Yep.
It didn't take it off. They were trying to. They're not going to be able to save it though. They're going to have to amputate it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and luckily, thank God, she was out there with her family, and her brother was an EMT paramedic and firefighter, and he just another reason to love your firefighters. He jumped in, he helped her back up to another boat. They flagged down. He put a tourniquet on it. It's the only reason she lived, frankly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we're doing idle chit chatting here. I hope you all like it. And
Don't you put that rain on me, Ricky Bobby. Yeah, I guess we forgot to end this thing, so we're still now. It degrades into fishing talk.
Well, I appreciate you having me, guys.
Well, Gene, thank you so much.
Being here, Gene. Peace, everybody. Thank you, and
well, have a good night. We're gonna end it. Gene, hang around for a minute.
All right.